everybody. Welcome back. This is Nick Schweitzer, and this is another episode of the Grow Strong Industries podcast. And we are here with yet another one of our wonderful contestants from the Grow Strong Industries Grow Off, CJ. And CJ has the YouTube channel Wow Arizona. But after watching some of CJ's videos, I now know that it's really Wow Arizona.
Thank you.
Because he really embodies kind of the beauty of just the nature around him, and the way he grows cannabis and the love that he puts into all of his projects. It really is this sense of kind of wow. I feel that coming off of you, and I got the same sense when I watched the videos. So first of all, let me, thanks for being one of the contestants in the contest. It's been super rad to see.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how about we start off with you telling everybody a little bit about yourself, where you hail from, and kind of give us a little backstory.
I've been in Tucson for 26 years. I started using weed when I was 13. All my friends had already been using it for a while. I've been using it medicinally from the beginning. My nickname in 8th grade was Bad Knees. I already had braces on my knees. So all my friends are laughing and giggling, having a great time. First time I took a big puff of weed, I felt this wave of relief wash through my body. And I knew right then, I'm pursuing this stuff. So we're talking in the 70s because I'm an old man. So ever since then, I've used it medicinally and pursued the knowledge of it and shared it with whoever wanted to take the time to listen.
Nice. What was the knee ailment? Was that like Oshlotter's or something like that?
I did have Osgood-Schlatters.
Yeah, okay.
I have, when I was 23, I was told I had arthritis. And my response was, old people get arthritis. And the doctor looked at me with this really kind of like dismissive grin and said, old people and you.
Oh,
and so I said, what do I do? He said, go have fun. So I took his advice.
Yeah. Were you, before you had tried cannabis for relief, were you on anything else that was trying to kill that pain or anything?
Whatever, I was 13. So whatever the doctors had given me, I don't remember whatever drug it was. But ever since then, I've used cannabis for my pain. I have rheumatoid arthritis, and my doctors now tell me, continue your current pain regimen. I'm one of the true people that has used cannabis for glaucoma. I had a rare narrow angle glaucoma, which they've done some operations and fixed my eyes, but so I won't go blind from it. But literally had 4 ophthalmologists tell me that if I hadn't used cannabis the way I had since I was a child, I'd be blind now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore when,
Wow.
It's not just fun and games and giggling. My friends and I have fun and games and giggle, but there's a true medicinal aspect behind it.
Oh, 100%. And the fact that we went so many years with the denial behind the fact that it was able to be used as a powerful medicine for all sorts of ailments was a travesty. And thank God those times are changing now, and that we're actually putting some respect into it for what it's worth, which is a super powerful medicine.
Well, I actually teach a course for the old people. When weed first became available for medicine here in Arizona, because of people coming to look at nature at my place, I ran into all kinds of older people, and I hated when they launch into the old, well, you think that's bad? Let me tell you how bad I got it. Like, oh, God, stop. What are you doing to fix it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they'd say, well, what do you do? I go, I use cannabis, and I'd start telling them about it. They were all afraid to smoke, and then they'd run down to the dispensary and grab a gummy and chow that down, and then get way, way, way too blasted and never want to use the medicine again. And I actually had a course teaching them about the endocannabinoid system and how your liver converts it to 11-hydroxy THC as opposed to delta-9 THC, what the difference is, and what the threshold is for human body psychoactive activity.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really good for old people because I'd put these screens up. I had a whole 45-minute instructional video and interaction was involved in it with the audience. And I'd put the screens up and see a dispensary with 500 items on the wall. And okay, now you got your card. Now what do you do?
Hmm.
So many were so ignorant about it that it got to where I was literally taking care of the gardens that you see on my videos. They're named after people that have died that I've taken care of through cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's been a really important road for me to try to share what has really been good for me and what has helped other people stay alive in my life.
Wow. Yeah, and I want to touch on that here in a minute. But let's back up a little bit and tell me. Obviously started using around that age of 13. Was a powerful medicine for you. When did you actually get into the cultivation side of it?
When I was a kid, I did stuck some seeds in the ground when I was like 21, 22. By the time I was in my late 20s, I was actually helping people set up grow rooms with CO2 sniffers on the floor and sensors and everything else. And that was before the Supreme Court ruled that you couldn't just fly over and use heat signature to look for houses that were hot.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, you had to look for a rental home that had electric heat where you could tie into the duct system, use the heat off the HID at the time, those lamps, into the ducting system of the house. So your electric bill stayed about the same, your heat signature stayed about the same. You just could never have anybody at the house because you were venting the lights through the ducting system of the house. The whole house just smelled incredible. But as soon as you get the mailman was cool because as soon as you got within 5 feet, you knew.
Yeah.
So, but I wasn't willing to go to prison for it. So I would help friends set it all up. And if they went on vacation, I would sit in the room and make sure nothing harmed on them. But I didn't get into growing for myself till I moved here. That was 26 years ago.
26 years ago. Wow. So you've been in it for a while. Um,
Yeah.
and are you on the outskirts of Tucson there, or where are you
Yeah,
at?
I'm about 25 miles outside of town.
Okay.
Literally, I open the gate and can go up the mountain.
That's
It's pretty
amazing.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, Tucson's a gigantic city. I come there for the gem show every year. I'm a huge gem and mineral collector. And I'm always blown away by how spread out Tucson is and how many people actually live in that city. It's
I always tell people if you're in a hurry, don't come here.
yeah, it'll take you 45 minutes to get from one
It
side to
does.
the other. Yeah.
But also, how many people live in a place where it doesn't matter which direction your car's pointed, you're looking at another mountain range with something cool happening.
Yep.
So
Yep.
just lighten up, take a puff on your vape, and take your time getting there.
Enjoy the ride. Yeah.
If you're in a hurry, go to Phoenix.
Right. And so with this thing that you're talking about, this I guess you were a caretaker
Yeah.
for several people. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, if I can keep from getting emotional, my next door neighbor died 3 days ago.
Oh
Um,
wow, I'm
her
sorry to hear
service,
that.
yeah, she was my second mom. She was the mom I always wanted.
Oh jeez.
And when she was diagnosed with a bile duct cancer multiple months ago, the doctors, when she went through some chemo, she's 87. She went through some chemo and she didn't want to anymore. Um, the doctors told her to look into cannabis, and I had been giving gummies to her husband, who's 90, for about 6 years now. Started him on a gummy program when I saw that he was starting to miss some words here or there, and
Mm-hmm.
his wife was filling in the gaps for him. So I sent a study to him that was out of the University of Tel Aviv in Israel about cannabis, THC cannabis, and its effect on dementia and memory loss. So I asked him to read the article. If he was game, come knock on the door. He came and knocked on the door. We started a program. So when Ann, his wife, got sick recently, and they recommended cannabis, and they asked her, "Do you know anybody?" She smiled and said, "Yes, we've got that covered." So we just lost her, but her daughter-in-law showed up at my house yesterday and returned the Pax vaporizer that I had instructed her on how to use and what was left of the bud for comfort, and told me that she got great comfort from it and did what we could. So that's just one. One of the gardens behind me is called Pete's Garden. I met him when he was told he had 4 months to live. Mesothelioma. If you go to mesothelioma.org and look up Pete Kolar, there's a page right up on him. He lived for 7 years after we started him on weed. And
Wow.
then my garden next to it is called Jeff's Garden, my friend from childhood, from 8th grade, who didn't like weed, uh, got glioblastoma multiforme, a bad form of brain cancer. And they gave him 2 months, and he lived 2 years. He actually lived in the room where I'm growing and sitting right now. So he could sit and look at nature all the time. I convinced him to come live with me. And that was before it was legal. And essentially put some information in front of him and said, this is your only chance to live longer. And he went for it. And the doctors actually said, and this is a complete quote, I don't know what those people are doing, wink, wink, but keep doing it.
Yeah.
And my partner, Mary Ellen, her sister, I have a 3-page letter from her. She works or worked for, she's retired now, worked for Johns Hopkins medical system. And about 6 years ago was told she had that magic 4 to 6 months to live. And she did what we called her first farewell tour, where she came out and said goodbye to everybody. She's, going to be dying, blah, blah, blah. And I told her maybe not, and taught her everything I knew about extraction and how to concentrate it into a pill form. And she, pretty daring gal, figured she had nothing to lose, packaged a bunch up and mailed it back to herself in Maryland before it was even legal. Yes, well, if it works, what do I do? I said, ask your kids. And sure enough, her kids came through for her. But Johns Hopkins kept studying her. And so now 3 years goes by. She's still alive. They have this new drug they wanted to try, put her on this trial. She has to stop using cannabis to make sure the efficacy of the trial is correct. So she tries the trial. It doesn't work. Tumor on her liver comes roaring back. She does what we call the second farewell tour, which was 3 years ago. And we bumped the THC level way up, and CBD changed the ratio so she didn't get too wigged out from the THC.
Sure.
And she's still alive, and she's now retired and watching her grandkids grow and go to college.
Wow.
So I've had.
And how many years was that from the original diagnosis?
Over 6.
Wow. That's amazing.
I got a lot of letters. I just don't publish them all because it feels kind of disingenuous to me if I help you a lot and then I put your letter up and go, well, look how fucking great I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not the intent.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, but I can say it that way.
yeah, no, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I thank you for your compassion as a human being and, helping those people out. And, it's crazy how quickly the medical industry can just write somebody off. And without a powerful medicine like cannabis, maybe they would have been right. Maybe it would have been only 3 to 6 months, but I mean, it's like even saying something like that to a cancer patient, it's like, what are you doing for their mental state at that point? You're just saying, hey, you're done, check out. And it's just like, the staying positive and the staying like, in the mental capacity to beat something like that or to survive something like that is like that's the number one first thing, right? And
it's
so
tough. You had to be strong. Every one of these people that lasted that long, there was some fighting involved, but there's a will to live.
Yeah.
But there's, I saw, to digress briefly, a gentleman in a growing group wrote something about around Christmas time about how he had been giving weed to people for years and no one ever gave weed to him, so he's not giving weed to anybody anymore. And I saw that and I wrote, well, it doesn't sound like you gave anything away. It sounds like you're giving a unmentioned loan.
Yeah,
and when people didn't pay you back, you got pissed. I said, why don't you give something to somebody that you'll never see again? I mean, that's the intent of why we've been giving weed to the homeless for years, our homeless helper packets. I'll never see those people, but I know when your body feels like crap and you don't have anywhere to go, nice bud at the end of the day is not bad.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that. That sounds awesome.
So literally, I got a bag right here. Grove Bags sent these bags. They're 8-gram bags. They're called the craft bags. And I put 2 grams of bud in each one and 2 rolling papers and then a label on the front. And we've been doing that for about 2.5 years now. Well, before COVID started. So uh, literally in the car, I keep uh, a zip bag with the legal limit that I can have, I can possess.
Yeah.
So if I did get pulled over, they add it all together. I can't go to jail because Arizona's still assholes about that. So again, I probably shouldn't have said it that way.
No, you're okay.
So anyhow, so uh, my girlfriend's the one that she drives to school each day. She's a school teacher, and I live out here pretty much. So she's the one that sees most of the people, and they literally see that packet and they come running for it, and they're happy to get it, and I'm happy to give it to them because it makes them feel better at the end of the day. So literally, there's 24 to 40 packages in the car, and as she comes home, she teaches at a school that's in the poorest district in town. So she drives through some of the rougher spots. And literally, when they see our car coming, they know that she's got some bud for them.
That's awesome.
It is pretty cool.
It is. I mean, it is. I mean, being homeless. I mean, I can't think of many tougher situations in life. I think about it a lot. And that's it's a noble thing that you're doing to, like you said, relieve some of that stress at the end of the day and kind of take some of that weight off of their shoulders.
I got more than enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it's for, man. It's for giving away,
Yeah.
Pass it forward. So, that's great, man. That's great. I love your backstory. I love your whole persona and what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes I can be an asshole.
Yeah, can't we all, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all still human beings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, we can, yeah. But I mean, it's like I can feel your intention in a lot of ways. I mean,
no,
it's good. It shows us as being humans, But even, before we started this podcast, you going out and feeding the Harrison's hawks outside with the, raw chicken meat. It's just like, you have a compassion for all the life around you. And I think it's pretty amazing. So
I think we should if we don't, people come here, there's only a couple rules. You leave whatever your choice of religion or whatever your choice of politics stays at the gate. And if anything you want to do would compromise wildlife, the answer will always be no, so don't ask me.
There's some simple rules. I think
That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to live by.
And then we're good from there. We can talk about the rest.
Yeah. Right on. So I guess let's go back to, kind of, who you were as a grower 26 years ago when you started. Obviously, you started with HID lights. You were kind of in that old school. I mean, that's about when I started, was about 25 years ago myself.
When I came here, I started outside.
Okay.
I only started hardcore inside 3.5 years ago.
Oh, really? Okay. So you were more 26 years ago. You were more just helping people set up their rooms.
I was really good at dialing it in. That's setting it, getting it so it worked with your thermostat system, getting the CO2 sniffer on the ground, explaining to people how to do it. But in Illinois and Indiana, the area where I lived, you got caught doing that, you went to prison for 20 years.
Right.
And I'm 130 pounds. I'm not prison material.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so it was only really
my deal was with everybody was I will help you set it up and I will coach you. Give me some.
Right.
And it worked well.
Yeah. Okay. So it was only 3.5 years ago that you actually started growing indoors.
Indoors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. And did you start with LEDs right out of the gate?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately after watching and all the heat and getting burned.
Yeah.
The hoods, having to find a way to dissipate the heat. And then being in Arizona, there's absolutely no way. Part of the reason I didn't start growing indoors is because LED technology hadn't come along far enough.
Yeah.
And when it finally got to where, okay, I think this will go, I gave it a shot. And then I actually told myself I wanted 2 to 3 years to get to the level where I was producing bud that looked like I did it, the quality stuff from outside, and looked as good as or better from the gentleman from whom I had been procuring bud for 25 years, who supplied the dispensary guys in town. I would meet them at his place. So I knew where they were getting their stash bud. So when I got to that level, and it only took me 9 months, took me 2 grows to get to where I took some over to my friend and said, hey, check this out. And it was, whoa. Yeah, probably not going to be coming around.
I can do this myself now.
That's it. And I literally took off from there. And then I've had some accidental crosses of my own where I had one herm. I mean, I'm not into breeding, but I love the science behind it. Right now, I took the cultivar from the contest and I cloned the daylights out of it. And then I have it running in 3 different tents where I've had only one variable. So I've got true science going down where I've varied lights in the 3 tents, but nothing else. They all get the same nutrients, everything else. And it's amazing the difference between the 3 tents.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's off the same cultivar. That's one of the interesting things about this whole grow off was, everybody was using that Skywalker OG. Everybody was growing from seed. And so to see the different characteristics that came out in everybody's seeds was pretty wild. I mean, there was a couple guys that looked like they had almost a sativa based, strain, super tall, big, almost diesel-y looking flowers. And then you see some of the, more traditional kind of, OG squat, plants. And so it's really, really strange. And so you're saying that you're getting different characteristics just even in those 3 tents.
Well, that's what I was trying to see was actually by varying light, what could I tease, because I cloned them from the same plant.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, should be real close. And the difference is profound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one light kind of failed, and it was not the best. Your light, the difference with yours versus the other 2 is the trichome production. It's when I touch the bud, I've got gooey hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of them. I used a product on it where I don't get a heavy stretch out of them. Where I used to get heavy stretch, I used I don't want to promote something on somebody else's product, but I use a spray that promotes lateral growth.
Okay.
So when I'm doing my scrog, I get an incredible coverage without having to really bend the daylights out of the plant without really pushing it hard. I like to push the plant through conditions of letting it dry some, push the lights, things of that nature, like in nature, but not necessarily because I bent it left or right or whatever. But if I do break it, I just tape it back together.
Right. Yeah, and you're all good to mention other products. I mean, we like healthy competition in any form or fashion.
Well, it's not a competitive product, actually. It's this.
The spray that pushes out the lateral branching. We obviously have nothing about that. But even if you mentioned some quality things about other lights or anything, we're okay with it.
It's been doing it for 50 years. The guy is really good. So, I used kind nutrients because of this product. The Lotus Nutrients, when I used, it's called Bud Buster Pro.
Okay.
It increased the demand. I mean, it would suck up nutrients at twice the rate. In one of my update videos during the grow, I was mentioning that I was already using the Lotus Nutrients at twice the rate. And I wouldn't recommend that because if you just did that normally, you might burn something.
Yeah.
But I've noticed from using this product that it makes your plants hungry.
Yeah.
And they go crazy.
Yeah. I mean, these new high powered LEDs, the levels that we're starting to get some of the efficacy on these lights too. It's, the most common thing I run into with people using the lights is they think that they somehow can't get them up to 100% power because their plants start to show what they think looks almost like a toxicity, but it's not. It's a deficiency. And those plants are they just want to eat. It's like if you slam the gas down, you got to give them enough air to mix with that gasoline to go. And it's just like you just gotta raise that EC level, and you just got to kind of push them because they want to go. They've got the photons to process to do it, and they just want to go. So
all my kind lights are at 100%. And I noticed in the beginning I did the contest. I started some where I cloned them in the beginning and then did the difference in internode spacing.
Yeah.
And using your spectrum for veg, using the X80, I believe was the number.
Yep.
That made the bush aspect was much greater.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a suck up for a corporate thing. That was a real profound difference on that aspect, where using that kept from great stretch. And conversely, you might have some people say, well, you've got a 6, 7, 8 foot tall tent. What difference does that make? Well, if you're trying to use your tent as a heat dome, like if you come to Tucson, if you're in any of the old houses, you see all the real high ceilings.
Yep.
So it sucks all the heat way up high and the cool air sinks down.
Yep.
So by having your plant not stretch an extra foot when it goes in the bud, you've got that much more space up above that you can vent the heat, and your plant stays in that right zone all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of the things that in the LED industry, people, mostly white light LED companies are like, spectrum doesn't matter anymore. We just throw the kitchen sink at it, and we just throw as many photons. Even if a lot of those photons are wasted, we just throw as many as we can at the plant, and it'll get what it needs. And it's like, no, spectrum has always mattered. Like, spectrum has a real effect on plant morphology. And like you said, that internodal spacing is so much tighter on those blue heavy spectrums, which is why we've always stayed with an adjustable spectrum.
I used a different brand that was sent to me to test on the same clones. And literally the spacing between the buds is like this.
Uh-huh.
And all the other ones like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it reached like crazy, and it's bright as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a light meter, so I put the light meter under it. It's cranking out, the lux. But yeah, you're if you're not getting the right spectrum, and then most people don't get, they'll get PAR, but PPFD, photosynthetic photon flux density.
Yeah.
That's really important. It's how many of the photons are hitting that one spot at the end of the day. Adding it all up. And if all you're doing is hitting it with one part of the spectrum, either you're going to make the plant, you might burn it with the cheap light, but you're certainly not going to make it grow better.
Yeah. Yeah. PPFD doesn't tell the whole story. I mean, that's just saying how many photons are falling within this pretty large range, 400 to 700 nanometers. And yeah, if you were nuking it with all red light, you wouldn't be growing very good plants,
Right. So, but if you're just doing that, when you see some of the other brands, they're putting PAR rating on there and PPFD, but so from an advertising standpoint, I'm sure you understand that that's called the technical jargon approach.
Yeah.
And it gets a lot of dudes. A lot of guys love that. It's got the extra PPFD.
Yeah, believe me, we've been fighting it for over a decade. So, and so to back up a little bit, had you used any Grow Strong Industry products before you got in this contest?
Yeah, I used your tents.
Our tents. Okay, cool. Right on.
I started with off-brand tent because I wasn't sure how successful I would be, and I got kind of curled up arthritic hands, and I've had 30 some operations. So the other tents were, besides the zippers were inferior, and they would always mess up. And I didn't have a single tent that got through a complete grow without a failure. So I switched to Gorilla Grow. The money was more, but it was truly worth it. The big giant tabs on the actual zipper, phenomenal, especially for older screwed up hands, phenomenal. And the way they don't pop and run. I haven't had a zipper issue. I had one warranty guarantee something out in a day. And that was, when I look back at it, most likely because I had the CFM pulls with a fan putting too much torque on the door, and I
Yeah.
literally pulled the stitching along the seam.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
other than that, I've never had an issue.
Well, it's good to hear. I mean, those are all the pain points that I designed that tent to get around. Because I mean, I had the same thing. I had tents. I had a countless number of tents before we started Gorilla Grow Tent. And same thing. I'd make it through one grow with it before the thing started
Yep.
breaking apart and seams started coming undone. I'm like, this is ridiculous, you know? And so that was the reason why Gorilla was born, actually. So that's good to hear. So what was your reaction when
And
you,
there's not much light leakage either, because I'd stand inside the other ones, zip them shut, have my girlfriend zip it shut while I'm standing in there, and see all the little lights looking like the stars we were talking about before.
uh-huh.
And I didn't want that either.
Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh,
Your
no,
second thing?
no, you're all good. I was just going to say, what was your impression when you first got wind that you were going to be in the GSI grow off?
Oh, I was really, really ecstatic. It was pretty cool. I'm pretty laid back for the most part, but my girlfriend was kind of, okay, now you can calm down now. She teaches special ed, and a lot of people tell her, well, you get a lot of practice at home, don't you? so, so sometimes I can be a little grating.
Yeah.
And when I got that information, at first I wasn't sure. I'm like, is this? Yeah, I guess it is. And so, yeah, I was really, really, really excited. And then there's the doubt of, I got the form letter like 5 days later that you send to everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for your participation.
Oh,
But
you thought it was a fluke, huh?
yeah, maybe next time. Like, oh shit.
Oh,
And
bummer.
I'm going right off the cliff. But you know, when the FedEx guy drove in the driveway with the stuff, oh, all my FedEx guys, all my UPS guys, every one of them, I give bud to them.
Uh-huh. Good way to keep your deliveries safe.
Oh yeah, and when the first time you ask them, hey, do you use weed? They're, do you use weed? Well, sometimes. Well, did you want some? Yes. So now they all bring it right to the door. I know all their names.
Yeah, that's great.
And all my stuff is right underneath the eaves if it's raining. Never an issue.
Nice. And so what was your impression when you first got that kit and opened it up? Was that the first time you had seen Kind LED grow lights and Lotus Nutrients? Or
I had read all about them,
okay.
but quite frankly couldn't afford them.
Yeah, yep.
When I started. So, one, I've gone through the nutrients. I had a bunch of stuff given to me. Some people liked what I was doing with the homeless helpers things and gave me a bunch of nutrients. And it was the kind, you got to measure this and measure that, 2 milliliters of this. And oh my God, that's some tedious bullshit. I want to put the scoop in there, shake it up, and dump it on them.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about the Lotus nutrients. And you know, all the stuff's on the label. You can read it. So it's a matter of being informed about what you're putting on your plant.
Yeah.
But I hated if you're the kind of guy that likes to do that anal retentive measure, 2 milliliters of this and that all day long, we'll go for it. But I've got too many things to do, and that's not my style.
Yeah.
So my first impression, when I got the light out of the box, I couldn't wait for variable UV and infrared, because I had been using little pucks before, and it was such a crapshoot of picking when all the way, because it's all the way on or all the way off.
Yeah.
There was no in between. And do I run them on a separate timer for an hour in the evening, or do I run them here or there? And if I hit it just right, it was great. And if I didn't, I'd burn the pistols like crazy and then have to back it off for a week or two and extend the grow to get it to come back. So having a situation where I could just tease it in a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And I used the first grow, I used your schedule. because I was obviously ignorant to what I was doing.
Yeah.
So and it worked rather well. And then second time around, I think I'm on a third grow with one of them now, and now I've got kind of a feel for it. So I got the look of what your light's going to do, and I know where I can bump it. I think in regards to the contest, anybody, the contestants, anybody that wasn't using your light or your nutrients and stuff and started scratch that had a successful situation, they should all be commended, because from growing long enough, anytime you start a new light, new cultivar, new nutrients, that's so many variables that you're trying, and then you're trying to make sure you do the best you can
Yeah.
with all those variables. So all the people that came through with a good crop, good for them, man.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, even just changing cultivars is tough enough, even if you use the same equipment, same nutrients, and
Yep.
everything else. So there were a lot of new variables for everybody, and I mean, everybody did a great job. I mean, I thought everybody pretty much knocked it out of the park, you know, and I hope that speaks to the products as well. You know, but it definitely does speak to the growers and the skill set and everything else. So it was really cool to see.
Got to find a way to send clones to everybody.
Yeah,
That'd be the
yeah.
term.
I mean,
But
it would probably, we thought about it, you know, we thought about it. And actually with the Hemp Act that just passed a little while ago, I think we can now. I think you can
because of
send,
the THC level.
yeah, so now you
Yeah.
can send some of the nurseries around here that we do business with. They're like, man, everything opened up. I can sell to all 50 states now. And so I think you can go over state border with clones now. So maybe we'll do that for the second round.
They did something with seeds now that where people are jumping in. It seems to be legal. And
Yeah, same thing. So they both fell into that below a certain threshold of THC. So
I
seeds
think it
and
was
clones.
0.3% was what it was,
Yep.
which is kind of cool because I have my legal limit of plants. I don't want to push anything. And quite frankly, between scrogging and good nutrients and lights, I don't need to run a million plants.
Yep.
But when I am getting ready, like I'm going to harvest the one cheesy plant that came through on the crappy lights, and I'm going to press it. And when I'm only time I'm over my 12 plants is when I'm starting clones or when I've got new seeds started. But from the legal aspect, not there anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I don't truly worry about it. I worry about it from my girlfriend's standpoint as a school teacher. I don't ever want to cause any trouble for her.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That makes sense. And so, in comparison to the other LEDs that you've used in the past, I mean, give me kind of your, you know, your comparison of the quality of product that came out of the Kind LED tent versus some of your other LEDs that you've used.
Well, I would say I've used four different brands of light under LED light for flower and veg. I've done, right now, I'm still in the middle of a test with yours versus another brand. Yours is beating the other brand right now. The other brand has slightly fatter bud, but the trichome production is just completely lacking. And it's the clone of the same plant. And I put additional UV pucks in there because the brand that I'm using to compete with yours
Yep.
doesn't have built-in UV infrared. So I wanted a true comparison. And then I also have a UV card. You ever see these things?
Yeah, where you can put them under and it'll show you how much exposure you're getting.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm making sure I'm keeping that, at an even level so I don't have one blasting it out and the other one, because who knows what your eye's perceiving versus what's really there.
Sure.
So I'm making sure that I'm doing it as close to anecdotal science as I can. And so far, I would say I put yours at the top. The other one that's right in the same expense level, I've grown great bud with it, but unfortunately, I got a couple of them, and it's not as good. So
What's the wattage on those ones?
one is I have a 300, a 350, 4, and a 6.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what?
I've got.
And
I've
the
literally. I wish I could turn this. I'm running. 7 of your tents right now.
I love it. We've actually we have a couple contestants that have what they claim to be gorilla cities in their house, and it sounds like you have one as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and my I've lent a 4x2 to a friend of mine who's harvesting, and I'll get that back, and that'll go in the other room for additional drying space. So then it'll be 8.
Nice. Yeah, and I've mentioned this on a couple podcasts because I know there's going to be people out there dropping in the comments that these people like work for us and they're shills for the company.
No,
But
no, I live on a disability check. I counted every single effing penny for
yeah.
this stuff. I'm no shill. I didn't get. I wish I could say, yeah, you guys gave me every damn thing I got. I didn't put out a penny.
Yeah.
Not the case.
Yeah, so it's like it's for me. I love hearing the feedback on my products, and I love it, and so I hope that people know that what we're doing in these podcasts is a very honest conversation with very honest answers, and there's no there's no payments happening or anything like that. So,
No,
and I think people can feel it. I mean, it's like everybody that we've interviewed has been very genuine. And it's like you can tell that no one's being paid off to say these things, and that they're actually having these experiences with these products. Because they're premium products, and yes, they are expensive, 100%. But it's like it is a you get what you pay for kind of thing for us.
I would say. Actually, after first initial investment, then I realized I should have put more money into it.
Yeah, because it actually becomes cheaper in the long run, right?
Definitely.
Because you're not replacing stuff. You're not replacing broken tents. You're not replacing broken lights. So it becomes...
Because if you're going to do it more than once, that's it. I've got so many metal tubes and shit like that from old tents that, well, what do I do with this? And I hate the pack rat thing, so they end up in a landfill or they end up getting recycled.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually considered, because I do an outdoor thing too, and I considered trying to use one of them to make a mini light depth thing as an experiment.
Uh-huh.
I would get bored if all I did was the same thing, stick the seed in the ground and watch it grow each time.
Right.
So I do different stuff each time. What if I change this? What if I change that? What if I add this? What if I do that? I mean, I literally have whiteboards where I keep track besides journals.
I was noticing those hanging on the tents. I love it.
Well, my friends think I'm just like the nutty professor. I got my microscope in front of me with my trichomes on it right now. Got my press all dialed in. I've got packets ready to go. I have great fun doing it.
That's awesome.
And what I like the most is because some of the young guys come by, the 20-somethings, and I love exploding their heads because they think they know everything about weed because they're young. And then, well, have you tried one of these things? And then, what is that? Here you go, youngster. Try that.
That's great. All right, so let's get into the results of your harvest for the contest. What was your exact weigh-in?
Oh, Christ. 461 grams was either
and I know you did a pretty good job of segmenting it out. I think you did like grade A.
411 of A. Total that I got of bud that I kept of A and B was 462, but I got 411 of what I consider A bud. In fact, I got a bunch of it sitting in my head.
Look at that, big beautiful bags.
So the buds are, let me grab a tray, nice and big and chunky. There we go.
Yeah.
I trim really tight because I have a press, so I don't leave any claws or anything like that. I trim like like a dispensary trim.
Right, because everything's going to get reused in the press anyway.
Going to get squished
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm going to smoke it or whatever. And I haven't smoked because of the cancer in my gal's family, taking care of her sister. She asked me, her brother died of cancer years ago, asked me to not smoke anymore. The only thing she ever asked me to do. So I had a vaporizer the next day. So no big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still have probably 3/4 of a pound. I'm actually giving some of this going to the homeless folk too.
Mm-hmm.
They love it.
And
Really,
what is everybody's impression of the way it smokes, like the overall finishing quality of it?
I think after letting it sit to cure longer, it got tastier.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the initial cure, I let it sit for about 3 weeks to a month, kind of, before I even opened the bag. And good aroma, good response. But when I let it sit, I closed it back up. I took out about an ounce or so, shared it with some friends. It was good enough because of my pain level. Not much cripples me. So I usually have friends come over and then I judge by how long they stay silent, meaning that they got too high on it and can't talk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 20 minutes. And then it's, okay, you're back with us again. Good. What do you think of that? So I got a good 15 minute of too high to talk on this one.
Oh, okay,
And
that's pretty good.
I've only had one that's been a 20 minute too high to talk. So
That's awesome. And then you also got like 18 grams of rosin off of it too,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh,
Something
yeah.
like that. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty good, man. Over a pound and some, 18 grams of rosin. I mean, that's a good pull out of a 400-watt tent.
yes, I had a 2.5 by 5 tent that came right in that same yield zone. But right now, I'm probably going to get close to the same. What's right behind me right now?
Mm-hmm.
This one's going to be ready in 2 weeks. This is the exact same tent, same light setup, everything from the contest.
Yep.
So this one will be ready, and I'm probably going to get close to the same amount out of this one.
Yep. Yeah, it looks good.
But this one, instead of 3 plants, I just teased it down to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to see how far I can push it without really stressing the plant, and then keep the yield, the return really good.
Right.
The rosin now, because I've got so much bud, I don't want it to get old for a certain amount of months, and then if it doesn't go to friends who donate to feed the birds, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If it doesn't go to them, then I press it because I can actually cure it in the refrigerator as rosin and make it better, as opposed to it gets to a certain point and as bud, you don't want to keep it anymore. So then I squish it, or always the oldest goes away first. So I just wanted to have some here for you today and fire up the press and squish some.
Yeah, I mean that's also. I mean the rosin press is a really good way to see true trichome production, because it's obviously you're only yielding so much per gram out of that thing.
Yep.
I mean, what did you notice like using Lotus Nutrients and using Kind LED? I mean, are you getting much higher yields out of that rosin press?
The rosin press oftentimes will be cultivar dependent.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But within the same cultivar, which I guess you just did that Skywalker OG for the first time, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you didn't really have a yardstick.
I don't have a reference point at this point. But so we'll see what we get from this one right now. Probably put on glasses so to see what I'm doing. Let that sit and pre-warm, start a timer. So I think that the contest, all in all, for your first time through, I think you guys did really well. because it's hard to coordinate. As I told my girlfriend, it's kind of like herding cats, you know.
Yeah, very much so. And did you keep tabs on any of the other contestants?
I didn't have a chance.
Yeah, right on.
Literally, when the thing was announced, I watched the first couple people's video, but I'm taking care of 40 hummingbird feeders, 30 bird seed feeders, this place, and 7 tents. So it was a matter of taking care of my growing.
Yeah.
And I will say, though, that I learned a lot having to do the videos each week forced me to improve my skills. So I actually got a lot out of this besides just growing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great experience, and being able to share the information the way I do it. I do a pretty simple, straightforward approach to growing. So having some people have actually written to me and told me they've had successful results by following what I did, I thought was pretty flattering.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, everybody likes an attaboy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And for anybody who wants to go check out his channel, CJ has some videos, besides his growing education videos or the grow off videos, that basically show his awestruck nature when it comes to the outdoors and to animals, which I appreciate so much. We were talking before the podcast started, how we both agree that, I think society being out of touch with nature is one of the biggest problems that we face as a race. If people could actually go out at night and see the stars, we'd probably be better off as a human race. And so it's a shame that we've lost that disconnection with nature. So it's always so refreshing to see someone like you who, loves it so much that you're out there taking, care of the bird feeders. I mean, those animals out in nature are your buddies, and it's it's so great to see. So thank you so much for being that kind of a soul. We need more of you on this planet. So
Well, thanks. That's really flattering.
yeah. So I was going to ask, and I've been asking all the contestants this one question, but maybe you couldn't answer it if you haven't been keeping up. But I was going to, we've asked everybody if they had to pick a winner other than themselves, who would it be? Do you know enough about the other grows to be able to answer that question?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
But let me say that I didn't have a chance to follow anybody, but if anybody had trouble in the beginning, overcame it, and then produced something positive at the end, that would be the person I would choose.
Yeah, right on. The person who hit the most adversity and overcame.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
It. I love
that
it.
Would be the one.
Right on. And for your channel, are you going to try to keep making videos and keep helping people out and educating?
I'm working on one right now about hypochlorous acid.
Okay.
And have you ever heard about using hypochlorous acid to fight botrytis and there's like 7 or 8 other fungus?
I don't think I have.
To be honest, I actually use I make it in the kitchen. Use distilled water or at least filtered water, kosher salt, non-iodized salt, and vinegar. And then I've been following these scientists on a blog where by varying the amount of vinegar each time you run the cycle on this machine, it's called the Eco 1, it changes the pH level. So you can essentially, it's molecule, 1 chlorine molecule, 1 oxygen molecule. In fact, when you go to the dentist and you go in there and you have that kind of almost bleach smell and they have you rinse your mouth with something that's like almost like sour, bleachy smelling stuff, that's hypochlorous acid. It's non-caustic to the skin, and it will kill all kinds of fungus. So I have it in one of my videos, but I actually use it when I harvest. Right before I harvest my bud, you can spray it on bud under light. It doesn't burn pistils. It doesn't do anything. But what it will do You can spray it so it soaks down into the bud itself. Then when you're drying, if you have too long of a dry period, too much moisture, whatever, it will stop any mold or fungus from growing in the interior of the bud.
Interesting.
It's phenomenal.
Is that the only time you treat with it? Is that harvest or do
Oh
you?
no, I've used it. I use it outside when I was getting so growing here in the desert outside. I prefer to grow inside. Since I started growing inside, outside's become a hobby
Uh-huh.
because there are so many variables, and you have this time frame where you're growing and it's dry. The relative humidity will be 8 to 11%. And then you'll go from that time frame into monsoon where literally in a week it'll be 80 some percent each day, rain each day. So these plants that had these incredibly dense buds that were growing outside with that great density now are really wet and can't dry out. And I've lost so much to botrytis year after year after year.
Yeah, we know it well in Northern California.
Yeah. So yeah, but here's what I do. I have one neighbor that's kind of a douchebag and doesn't like cannabis a real lot. So I let the stuff that has botrytis, I let it dry way out by my growing area. And then I have a chimenea. And then when the wind's blowing just right, I burn pounds of it so it blows over their yard. See? So remember I said I could be
There's
an
the
asshole
there
at
there's
times?
the asshole. Yeah, I love
There it
it.
is right there.
That's hilarious. Oh man, that's so great.
It's kind of harmless, but it's
Yeah,
there
yeah.
you
I
go.
mean, I get where you're coming from for sure. That's funny.
But so hypochlorous acid is a video I'm doing, and then from a nature standpoint, I'm doing a video right now. When I sit here and work on stuff, the roadrunner comes up and taps on the window for food. The Harris's hawks come to the window. The javelina come through. I have video of the bobcat catching rats right in front of the window. So I'm going to be doing a video of this is where I work, squish and bud, and this is where the creatures go by.
Yeah.
Oh, while I was talking, I forgot I had, check it out, I forgot I had the rosin going.
Oh yeah.
Oops, I forgot. I guess it's done.
Yeah, there's more where that came from.
Yeah, but some of it looks incredible. So the stuff on the front obviously got too hot, but the rest is nice and buttery.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be hitting some of that up soon. See, that's where the childhood part in me comes out, like, ooh. So you guys, if you're in Tucson, you should visit.
I was just about to say, man, if I next time I come back down, I for sure will swing by. Like I said, I come there every year for the gem show, usually at the beginning of February. But you know, my son is a huge nature freak, just like I am, and he loves all birds and all lizards, and I mean, he would just have a blast coming and visiting you, and you know, feeding the hawks and everything else. So when we're in town, we'll definitely swing by for sure.
Well, kids are my target audience because they're the ones that are going to make any changes.
Yep.
And I mean,
Well, and they're the
if I
one they're
read-
the ones that honestly need nature the most, right? I mean, they need
Yeah.
to get their faces out of the devices and they need to start like, you know, opening their eyes to what really matters, which is protecting our natural environment that we live in, you know?
I'm really hoping there's a paradigm shift. I was hoping with COVID that people reconnected some
Yeah.
because I did have, because of our bird watching aspect, I've had many people that have come here to look at birds and in conversation have stated they started that because they actually sat and looked at what was in their yard and realized there were beautiful things right around them. They just never stopped to look.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's half of what I do. I do a thing called Birds and Buds, and it's a ploy. I get people out here using weed, but my whole goal is to get them to slow down enough to look at nature.
Yeah. It's a good game plan.
It works. They
Yeah.
love it.
Well, that's the thing. That's really all you have to do is slow down to where you start to notice it. You know, everybody's lives are so fast moving that it's just like blow past it and not take notice of any of that stuff. So I mean, that's
Well, you
great.
said you're a skier. So I always ask people when they come to look at nature, I ask them, have you ever gone snorkeling or scuba diving? And a lot of people have.
Mm-hmm.
I said, have you ever worn a mask when you're a little kid and jumped in the pool and looked at the penny on the bottom of the pool? And every one of them has said yes.
Yeah.
And I said, when you hold your breath, you can only see. So you go slow and you look at it. As opposed to when people go outside in nature, they tend to go like this and they go, okay, I saw it. I try to get them to employ the concept of snorkeling or scuba diving in their backyard.
Uh-huh.
Pick a bush, pick one bush and go really look at it.
Yeah.
What cut all those little holes in the leaves? What made that? And they'll realize, well, there's a wasp that cuts those holes, that rolls that leaf up like a cigar, lays its egg on the inside with a spider that it's paralyzed, and its egg eats that spider that's alive, and then it chews through that little paper, that piece of plant, comes out as a new wasp.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
It's amazing.
And so if your kid comes, we'll teach them all that stuff.
Nice. Right on. Right on. Well, CJ, man,
Sorry, I talk too much.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thanks again for being part of the contest. Oh, there was one thing that I didn't ask you that I've asked everybody else, which is if you were to win the contest, what would you use the prize money for?
How much would I get?
I think it's $1,000.
Oh, I'd invest it right back into equipment.
That is our number one most popular answer. But it makes sense. It makes sense. So, okay, right on. Right on. Well, anybody that wants to check out CJ's channel, again, it is Wow Arizona. And it's wow with an exclamation point and then Arizona after it on YouTube. Go check him out. He's got great videos, like I said, on nature. You can feel his wonderment and his amazement for just life in general on that channel. And he's got some really great growing videos. So CJ, thank you again. I'll definitely be in touch. We'll come out and visit you. And we're stoked to have you as one of our family.
Bring the group.
Right on, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.